public speaking, I always begin by thanking Christ for everything He's given me. Without Christ, I literally would not have any of what I have in my life. Second point, I always give thanks for my parents legally immigrating to the United States. If they had stayed in Mexico, I just would not have accomplished any of this. And that is a statement of fact. Third, I give thanks to the United States of America for being the best darn country on the planet. Period. Never did I think I'd have the opportunity to get out of Baldwin Park. And last, I give thanks to the United States Army. Never in a million years did I think I'd retire as a forward colonel. So I thank Christ for that every single day. So let's hit on some themes this evening. Again, ground rules, you can ask anything you want. Unlike Xavier Bacetta. Right? If you saw the Xavier Bacetta interview where he's trying to tell the interviewer what the interview is going to be about, I thought that was comical. So anything you want is on the table, period. If I don't have a good perspective on it, I should not. So the theme tonight is, why should you vote for me? Why should you support me? Why should you call your friends to vote for this Dr. Casas student? Let's start with that. So, after completing my Ph.D. at UC Santa Barbara, I published like my second year there, a number of research articles, one book chapter. I was well on my way to doing the ivory tower thing at a major university. And then during my internship year, choosing internship sites, there was the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. You know, God knows that if I joined the Navy, I just would have been miserable. It just was not for me. If I joined the Air Force, I probably would have been court-martialed. But the Army and I got along. That's just my personality. Got along great, showed initiative. And I've been all over the world several times on duty assignments. Yeah, 82nd Airborne, super proud of that. I miss jumping out of planes. And I mean it when I say if the president were to call this moment and say, you know what, we need you, we need to and have you jump out of a plane somewhere, I tell my 18-year-old, I'm out of here, I'll see you in 9 months. Other accomplishments, so I've been to Iraq twice. I served as a chief of mental health for 4th Infantry Division in Iraq, 03, 05. I got back, I completed a 2-year forensic psychology fellowship. Did a practicum with the FBI, practicum with the National Security Agency. I'm most proud of a gig called Site R, which most people have never heard of. Then I had a Pentagon job. I've been the chief of departments. During COVID, I worked 7 days a week for about a year, right? So that was pretty busy. So I bring a lot of experience. But I want to focus on what I did in 2012, 2013. I served as a commander in Afghanistan, out of Kandahar. I want to share some lessons on why I'm asking for your vote and why I need your support to call people. So what are the lessons and what's missing from politics today? Number one, I believe in leading from the front. Lead from the front. Lead from the front. Do what right looks like 24/7, 365.
I get it, you so.
That's critical. And part of leading from the front is integrity, right? Am I doing what right looks like for myself? Am I doing what right looks like for my team? Am I doing what right looks like for our country? Do I carry myself with dignity 24/7, 365? Do I treat others with respect 24/7, 365? Do I stay within the, like Geneva Convention, the American law of war, the rules of engagement? And that's what leadership looks like. In my time, I'm very proud to say, my team trusted me. They knew that I would not hesitate a second to end anyone who was going to hurt my team. And they saw me do some things that no need to go into here, completely within the rules of engagement. They've seen me put beatings into people because they deserved it, well within the rules of engagement. That they knew that I was going to keep them safe, no matter what. And the first lesson I want to provide you is that's the kind of fervor that we need to save our country. That we need that commitment in this thing that we call American politics. And truth be told, it's very difficult. It's very difficult for me because I'm all about integrity. And in politics, literally, at least I can say this definitely for our Democrat opponents, it seems like the word of integrity is not in their dictionary. And we can talk about example after example here in California, that this is the challenge that we have to take if we're going to save our country. Other lessons. No one gets left behind. Right? I'm very clear about that in the Army. No one gets left behind. Right? And I thank Christ for my team. I brought back everyone alive. I almost lost a couple, but I brought them back alive. And I don't mind admitting the most humble thing as a full-bird colonel in Afghanistan is having to have the doc save your team members, and that ego that you wear means absolutely nothing. That is the most humbling experience of my life. But the message that no one gets left behind, are you giving that to everyone that we encounter on a daily basis? And I'm not talking Republicans. I'm talking Democrats. You know, for my race, these people are just so ingrained that they think they have to use the B word to vote. And you ask them, what have they done for you? They can't name anything, but they still vote the B word. That's very, very hard for me. But unless we do that outreach and say, hey, what have they done for you? And you can list 2 or 3 bad things that you've done for them, whether it's the higher taxes, cap and gains, the diaper fiasco, the train to nowhere, the deficit. You can go on, but at the end of the day, if you just focus on 1 or 2 things, affordability. In California, they pay more for gas, more for groceries, highest unemployment, right, highest inflation, highest drug abuse, highest homelessness. You can invite them to go hiking and say, you know what, let's go hiking out in the Garza Park, but you gotta wear your hiking boots so you don't step on the boots. Right? They need that concrete example that the party that they're voting for, that they haven't done anything for them. Give Republicans a chance to lower taxes and bring common sense and Christian values back to government. So no one gets left behind. 1 team, 1 fight. One thing I've noticed for Republicans is what I call the immaturity card. A lot of emotionality. A lot of he said, she said, they don't like me, I didn't do this, I did, whatever. That's not unity. It's not helping our party. All other people see on the outside is 8th grade level of maturity and finger pointing. As a commander, and my gift to you on this topic is, take that deep breath, Make sure you've got a level head. And what's the way ahead to bring the party together? If someone has a deficit, bring it out to them. But I'm very much of a strong opinion. I always praise in public that I give constructive criticism or feedback in private. I have always kept that, always will. That's just professionalism. That's how you give someone that dignity. And I think even in our party, we've lost it. The Democrats are 1,000 times worse, I get it. I'm glad my name isn't Eric Swalwell. I'm glad my name isn't Xavier Bacetta. I could never imagine myself going on a rant like Miss AOC. Right? We see that. Is that giving us votes to take back these districts? Right? So the way I think we get those votes from people who are the D word is we get through to their thinking as opposed to their emotionality. And to say, hey, here's what we want to bring to make your life better. Next thing, chain of command. I'm very clear about this in my mind. I went to my first Republican meeting, OC GOP, last night. I like our chairman. I like him a lot. I like his professionalism. Very intelligent man. I'm just sorry I didn't get a chance to shake his hand last night because it was so busy last night. But if you were to call me right now and say, Antonio, I need this of you, my answer would be, yes, sir. That chain of command, that unity of command, that's critical. And what I've seen is, again, it's a million times worse right now in the Democrat Party, but we have so much variability in how we define being a Republican that sometimes the division gets in the way of the unity. So I would say take a deep breath and let's come together always. Next thing. So, I'm trying to think of which one to focus on, or rather, whether I want to move on to some issues. But let me move on to why me? What should you know about me? You know about a lot about me professionally, but personally, what do you know about me? Grew up in Baldwin Park. And I got beat up more times than I can count when I was a kid. I remember one time these 5 dudes just beat the tar out of me because I was riding my bicycle on the wrong street. That was not pleasant. You know, I'm glad I made the Army my career. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. If I hadn't had so many community surgeries, I'd still be active duty. You know, I have 2 wonderful sons. I've been divorced for about a decade. I got sole custody in Hawaii, which never happens. That in itself is a miracle. You know, my oldest son turned down West Point. He decided to attend the United States Naval Academy. Why are you clapping? This is a traumatic event for me. He chose, and after the Naval Academy, you can stay in the Navy or you can go Marines. This is the first time in the Naval Academy history that a number of the officers wanted to go to the Marines. The Marines turned down a number of Naval Academy graduates. That's saying something of our current president. Think about that. Now, my oldest son right now, he's in flight school. He's up to fighter pilot, Top Gun, all that. Who knew that fighter school is like, 3 years after you go to the Naval Academy? Right, so he's on his way. My youngest son is a Navy in high school in Laverne, right? Yeah, they're both pathetic, right? My youngest son, he's pathetic. His GPA is a mere 4.7. Okay, so we're gonna figure out what tier 1 university he attends in the country. And I'm hoping he attends medical school and but does still with the military. Right? And my point to you is, as a single dad, that tells you where my focus has been. Right? Christ-like values, family values, and unfortunately, no time for dating. Right? That's just a reality. When you're a full-time dad, you do not have time to find a woman who can tolerate you. That's just a statement of fact. So that's why I ask people to vote for me. Have I done it right as a single dad for over a decade? Am I what right looks like? Do I have the values? Do I stay in the fight to be present for my sons? When you combine that with my military experience, I think that's what makes me, I'd like to think in that respect that I'm special. So let's move on to some political issues. Number one, let's talk about affordability in California. First point that I would say to you in my campaign, and that I would encourage each of you to reach out to Democrats, is this is not about Donald Trump. These issues have been present in California for decades, and I would hammer that home. You know, the unemployment, the inflation, the housing crisis, right? The drug abuse, the homelessness, right? Our schools went from the golden standard on the planet to like the bottom 20% in the country. I would hammer home these issues. Right, that affordability issue is central. The $2 more per gallon of gas here is clearly a Democrat scheme for Democrats. It has nothing to do with putting solar tiles on homes. The high taxes, again, they get rich. And what I say to the Latinos is, they get rich, but you don't have money to pay the rent. Those are the kind of issues that I think we've got to address. What would I do different? One, I know how to balance my checkbook. It's that simple. We don't spend money we don't have. If I did that and I'm making checks that I can't cash, I'm going to jail.
That's right.
In Sacramento, they sort of justify it. And so that affordability is critical. As a congressman, if I pull off this miracle, I'm going to bring the weight of Congress to the audits in California. Number one is a train to nowhere, right? Again, if you pay me $100 to do your lawn and I don't do it, and you call the police in Pomona and the lawn is not cut and I don't give you the money back, I'm going to jail. If I go to Target and decide I want some Tide and I just want to walk out and don't pay for the Tide, I'm going to jail. But in California, not only do they not do anything, they reward them by giving them another contract for another train to nowhere. And as you all know, that budget of $25 billion has now grown to a budget of $231 billion, and they're thinking it'll take another 20 years or so. These people are absolutely crazy. I would call it corrupt. So the affordability issue is critical. Let me shift gears. Let me talk about a national issue. Immigration. Again, this goes back decades and decades. Under my plan, we keep the good apples, the bad apples gotta go. You know, if you're a child pornographer, you gotta go. If you're a child rapist, you gotta go. After jail, you need to go out of the country. Under current California policy, since they consider themselves a sanctuary state, once these people are released from jail or prison, since there's no coordination with the federal government, they go right back to California to continue doing what they've been doing. That to me is craziness. And I believe that 12-year-olds like Jocelyn and Gary deserve better. For those of you who don't know, she was in Houston, 12 years old, walking home from school. Two savages that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris let in from Venezuela. They kidnapped her, beat her up, gang raped her for a couple of hours, and then they killed her. That's wrong. And not one Democrat is saying that's wrong and we need to fix it. And obviously because they want the power grab, that's pretty easy to figure out. So for immigration, we've got to fix immigration. There have been people here who have been here for decades, and I don't believe in rewarding criminal behavior, but I also know that they've been here for decades, and both parties have punted for decades. I don't believe we give them citizenship. I do believe we give those people a path to residency, legal residency. And I think I can win that one with my Democrat opponents. Right? It makes sense. It takes care of our country. It vets people, but it doesn't give them a vote. Next issue. And this is where I hear people use this word, like trans men or trans females, whatever. I want to encourage you, stop using this profanity. There's no such thing. There's men who have a mental disorder called gender dysphoria. And there's females who rarely, or less than the men, have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria. Let's focus on the biological man. No matter what private parts you chop off, no matter what puberty blockers you give them, or cross-sex hormones, they're still a guy. And the reason they're still a guy is a couple reasons. Number one, Christ made you perfect just the way you are. That's number one. Number two, Number two, you're still an XY gene set. I learned that in the 4th grade, even in Baldwin Park. Democrats sort of don't understand this. Maybe they fell asleep in 4th grade. So I'm very clear. Men, and this is not about keeping anyone from competing, these men can continue to compete with other men. But to me, it's absolutely craziness that they want to compete with women and girls. And we've all seen the videos of girls getting injured. Those are a couple of issues that will open up. National security. Let's talk about Iran. So, Iran hates us. They've hated us since 1979. This current batch of leaders in Iran, they all knew the guys in 1979 who took over our embassies, same year group. They all believe in the caliphate, the Islamic caliphate. They want Shia Muslim caliphate around the globe. Not Sunni, because they hate Sunnis, they just want Shias. That's their plan. And they buy into the pillars of jihad. They can lie to us, they can kill us, they can tax us. At the end of the day, they can do whatever they want to spread Shia, Muslim, terrorism, extremism. That's pretty clear cut. If y'all look at one of my YouTube videos from about a month ago, I sort of predicted where we'd be now. And regardless of how from a military perspective, we go absolutely demolish them, they haven't surrendered. And the assumption, I think, at the White House for the president was, if we bash them enough, they'll give up. And I wish one of his advisors would have said the following: sir, it's not the military power. They want to keep the Shia Muslim extremism and terrorism ideology alive. That's it. So what's the way ahead? These are people who have killed thousands of Americans from 1979, the 241 Marines in Beirut, Colbert Towers and Usis Coal in the 1990s, hundreds and hundreds of service members in Iraq in the early 2000s, right? And then topping it off with the attack on Israel on October 7th of 2023. So my recommendation would be take out the leaders. These are the hardcore guys who have this ideology. Take out the leaders. They're the ones responsible for killing thousands of Americans. Take out the leaders and then put in a Western-friendly government. Boots never on the ground. Right? It would take time. We'd have to keep on hitting them from the air. It's manageable. That's my thought on Iran. The Strait of Hormuz, that doesn't belong to Iran. That in itself is another terrorist activity. They think they can just take it over. It doesn't belong to them. So what I would say to you, people are in doubt, say they don't own the Strait of Hormuz. That's what makes it a terrorist act. Because you all probably seen on TV, has any news station here called it a terrorist takeover? And the answer is of course not. So those are a few of my thoughts. Let me talk a little bit about my opponent, Hilda Solis. She ran in Congress 2009, absolutely not competent. President Obama selected her for labor secretary. She resigned in disgrace, secondary to an FBI criminal investigation. Then she came back to Los Angeles, and now became one of the supervisors. 2023, she tried to close the jails without any plan on what to do with these people. In 2021, she tried to force Sheriff Villanueva to give everyone the jab, even though there's no science that everyone needed the jab ever for COVID. So in 2022, they passed a new law that the supervisors could get rid of the sheriff for cost. So Villanueva, he was never convicted, never charged. His cause was that he said, no, I'm not going to make all the sheriff's deputies get the jab. And he's right. There's no research whatsoever that anyone in 25, 35, 45, as long as they're not obese and don't have medical conditions, you didn't need the jab. What else did she do? They closed all our churches, but they kept the liquor stores open. My challenge to her on some of my flyers is, if you can show me one study where this virus was smart enough to cap our Catholic churches that avoid liquor stores, I'll give you $1,000 in cash. I still have the $1,000 in my wallet. What else? It'd be nice if they know how to balance a budget in Los Angeles. As you know, if you go downtown, you gotta evade the poop, right? So this is where Los Angeles has gone under Hilda Solis. She's been using discretionary funds to give out money. She claims to the poorest Latinos, poorest immigrants. However, the poorest has always been Boyle Heights. It's always been East LA, right in the heart of her district. They didn't get any free food. Even after that fire of 1 week, they haven't gotten any free food. What's the difference between Boyle Heights and all the other areas that got free food? All the new areas that got free food fall within the new 38th congressional district. So that's an uphill battle for me, but it gives you an indication of what kind of person she is. What they didn't use that discretionary money, in November of 2023, we had 4 suicides in the LA County Sheriff's. 4 in 1 month. That's about 10 times the national average. She didn't use it to increase deputies by 50%, which would really help. She didn't use it to double the size of the behavioral health department, because that would make too much sense. that she's not a law and order person, obviously. That she's not using money in a way, and this is our money. We live in LA County. These are our tax dollars. She's not using our tax dollars to help deputies or law enforcement or keep us safe. She uses it for discretionary spending to give away free food to win votes. That's what makes this tough for me, both from a winning perspective and from an integrity perspective. So I've talked a lot. Can you open it up to questions? Questions, comments, concerns? Yes, sir. Let's start over here.
I appreciate it. I just saw something, I believe, earlier today. Of the 24,000 murders in the U.S. last year, I think it said 13,000, about 60-70% were by illegal immigrants. Did you see that?
I did not. No surprise. And that's another issue, what I call, it's not misinformation, it's active deception here in Los Angeles. Right? They'll show some sort of shooting here. That I remember about a month ago, this Uruguayan killed his ex-girlfriend, their 2-week-old daughter, and her mother, right, up in the Central Valley. But we didn't hear about it. So I get it. I get it. My perspective is different. Anything greater than zero, and we've got to fix it. And this has been greater than zero for a long time. Great question, sir. Great question.
With Prop 15, the districts are all blurred, I think, to a lot of people. So could you describe, I think it's Yorba Linda you have, and it goes into LA County, is that right?
You know, because of you, my campaign manager is going to chew me out after this presentation. So it starts in Baldwin Park, and then Monte, south of Monte, Pico Rivera, Monteveo, Calleje, Bell. It loops back around to parts of Whittier Hills, parts of Hacienda Heights, parts of Roland Heights, parts of Diamond Bar, and then it curves over here to Yorba Linda. Why? Why, you may ask? Because Gavin Newsom absolutely hates the president.
Cheaters.
Right? And so this is the part where I'm not challenging the lack of integrity of them doing it, but this is the situation I'm in. Great question, sir. Yes, sir.
Just given your military background, would you support continuing to give blank checks to Ukraine, continuing to fund it, or would you want them to work? Because Trump of Zelensky said, like, you don't have the cards and then you need to negotiate.
So Ukraine, 1994, Bill Clinton forced Ukraine to give up their tactical nukes in the name of peace and all that. Détente. For those of you who remember détente. And what did it do? Nothing. Instead, in 2008, Putin took Georgia. 2014, Putin took the Crimea. Right? What did we do? We gave them blankets.
Obama did.
Obama did. President Obama did. Yes, sir. And so we're in this mess because for decades we showed weakness to a pariah. The best intel on Putin comes from Tucker Carlson. He did that 3-hour interview where Putin just went on a rant. There's only one thing he mentioned twice in 3 hours, as I review this again and again. And the one thing he said twice is he wants to go back to like 1800s Mother Russia. So his intention isn't to stop with Ukraine. He mentioned this point twice. After this, it's Poland and Latvia. That's what he mentioned. So anyone in Europe who thinks that he wants part of the Ukraine, they're absolute cowards. There is no leadership in Europe. And each country in Europe, NATO and non-NATO, because this is not a NATO issue, and Article 5, I believe, does not force anyone to go to war. Article 5 forces them to consider going to war. Those are two very different things. Unfortunately, President Biden and Kamala Harris kept forgetting to put the caveat. So there is no leadership in Europe. This is what they did in 1938 and 1939. You could argue they did it as early as 1933, when they saw the Rhine rebuilding after World War I. If each country in Europe went in with a brigade of armor, of mech, of infantry, fighter squadrons, bombers, this could be over in under 6 months. If Europe has done nothing, Germany put its head in the sand. What has Spain done? Nothing. France, Britain, right? So the issue in Europe is there's no leadership. That's the issue. One more point before I go on. Under NATO, they should have been giving 2% gross domestic product. They were down to like 0.5. So what NATO? Before President Trump came back, what NATO? Without that money, you don't have personnel, you don't have equipment, you don't have training, which means you don't have a military. And now under President Trump, some of these countries are up to 5%. Right, so that's a gift that President Trump has given all of us for safety that Democrats refuse to acknowledge. Great point. Sir, Mr. Turning Point. I'm going to call you Mr. Turning Point because I don't know your name. What's your name, sir?
Dylan.
I was honored to attend Charlie Kirk's memorial. And you brought up a great point about the Council for American Islamic Relations being on one of your campuses.
No, so they're in Anaheim. I'm doing a documentary on their takeover of
So,
Anaheim.
Anwar al-Awlaki. Does that ring a bell for anyone? So on about before September 11, 2001, or no, I think it was actually after, Democrats had this guy actually do prayer at the Capitol. And he was a complete extremist, went to become a terrorist, and President Obama took him out. I think the guy was in Somalia, and I could be fact-checked on that. You know, President Obama did it right to take this guy out. My point is, what were Democrats thinking even then that somehow these people want to be part of America? They're not here to be part of America. They're here to spread their version of Islam over America. That's very clear to me. And Anwar al-Awlaki was the first guy who literally was heading this. So you have every right to be concerned. One of my true life regrets is I never met Charlie Kirk before he was assassinated. Yes, ma'am.
What single most important issue would you fight for in Congress, and what two principles would you not compromise on?
So what would I fight for and not compromise? You know, there's a strong argument that I would fight for our Constitution. Right, we've lost, the left has lost the Constitution. They think they can just dismantle it. Let me give you an example. They always say they want more background checks for firearms, right? And they call something gun violence. I don't know what gun violence is, but they use that term often. But let's say you buy into that. Well, how do people learn about gun violence? Right? Number one way is probably Hollywood. Right? Whether it's Tulsa King, The Equalizer, John Wick. I like John Wick, right? Rambo, Terminator, Predator. If they really believe in wanting to stop gun violence, and obviously you would not want them to learn about gun violence. So why don't they just completely ban anything of violence on TV? Right? Well, correct. And I'm a big John Wick fan, right? So they don't believe it. What they believe in, they want to control you. It's that simple. And these people don't have a shred of integrity. If you go to LA County Board of Supervisors, as I did, to see Hilda Solis, let her know I was alive. They have like a platoon of police officers there. So they're all protected by a platoon of guns. But they don't want you to protect yourself. LA County, they just set up a lawsuit to do a better job on their CCWs for citizens. When I was in Georgia, it took me less than a week to get my CCW. I walk in, they fingerprint me. Like less than a week later, they call me up, hey, come pick up your CCW. Done. It literally could be that simple, but California makes it difficult because they want control. When you see crime, the easy answer is, well, if there's crime, that means someone already got hurt. By the time the police get there, someone already got hurt. We need to make sure that we have the ability to protect ourselves. I'm very clear about that in my mind.
So is that what you would not compromise as our?
I'm not compromising anything. I'm gonna maintain my dignity, my integrity, my respect, my values. I'm very Catholic based. So like I think, which state just legalized abortion into the 9 months? That's just wrong. How is that not murder? How is that not murder? So I'm not gonna sacrifice anything. I'm taking this fight and I'm gonna do my best. If I pull off this miracle, I'm gonna do my best each and every day. Along that line of thought, when I'm not there, I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna meet with groups like you. One, so I can have a nice dinner and we can banter. And the other, so I can hear what's important to you. Right now, for all the Democrats in the area, it's basically like December 1773, Boston Tea Party Part 2, right? Taxation without representation. They get into Congress or the Senate, they disappear, you never see them until they need your vote and they do a commercial. So I'm gonna do my best each day. One off night, and I'll come back peaceful. And we gotta bring the parties together. You know, my chief of staff, this is a quiz for you. Let's see if someone can get the right answer. He's actually a Democrat. If I win, my chief of staff is a Democrat. Can anyone figure out why? A for effort? No. Give you a clue. Clue is military. Anyone? Clue is executive officer underneath me in Afghanistan. Can anyone get the answer now? I trust him. He's not ready to go from the D word to the R word, but he is done with the Democrat craziness. He's done with that. And there's a lot of Democrats who aren't ready to go to the R word, but they're done with the craziness. And that's my hope on winning this election. But I trust him. If he saw what he did for me in Afghanistan and in Germany, very trustworthy. My senior healthcare analyst who's dealt with billions of dollars in the military. Again, if I win this, he's a Democrat. He just thinks Democrats are crazy, but he's not ready to go to the R word. So what I would say to you is a few messages. I'm going to fight every day to do what right looks like on my belief system. And we've got to reach out to Democrats. We got to reach out and say, hey, you don't have to buy into all the craziness. If you're not ready to come over to the R side, you can still be a D side. You can vote for the R's and see what we have to offer. But if we don't make that effort to have them come to our side, it's never going to happen. That's very clear. Sir, what's your question?
Well, this has to do with your position on the Constitution and the idea of compromising on it. And I just want to let you know ahead of time that I'm flat out disagreeing with you on your statement of good apples having to do with illegal immigration. Sir, I'd like you to answer this.
Yes.
Are we a sovereign nation? Because if we are, and if the Constitution matters and our borders matter, then the amount of time that somebody snuck and hid in this country doesn't matter. They still broke the law. They still got to go. If they leave now, they can come back in due time like everybody else. I understand you want to, I'm going to just say it, pander to the Democrats to get them to vote for you. I get that strategy. I'm not in agreement with it. I think you have to take a hard stand, and if you don't win, you still honor God and you honor the Constitution. And I think that God created the Constitution.
That's a great question. So, few points. Not caving into Democrats or votes. That's not it. So let's talk about sovereignty. Here's one of Dr. Casas' famous quizzes. Can anyone name one country in the entirety of world history that has survived any length of time without protecting its sovereignty? There's some trick questions, right? You can say Montenegro, you can say Monaco, you can say Luxembourg, maybe you can say Kiribati, maybe you can say Guam, Samoa, but they're all protected by who? They're protected by us. Right, so they're actually well protected. Right, so you've got to protect your sovereignty. I actually agree with you completely on our Constitution, and two wrongs don't make a right. 3 wrongs don't make a right. 4 wrongs don't make a right. And we've got to fix this nightmare and have immigration policy for the next 100 years, which means we don't need all these people claiming asylum. It's bogus. What civil war is south of the border? The only thing south of the border is corrupt socialism, right? Corruption in general, and fraud cartels. That's why they're coming up here. Right. So the way we handle that, we protect our sovereignty and we address those issues. But if I don't have something to work with the Democrats, I'll never win. I'll never get this passed. So it's not that I disagree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But unless I have something to work with Democrats, I'm never going to get the votes. And we've got to fix this. We can't have Somalis coming in just because they want to, or Haitians, or people from all over the world. And here's why. There's 5 billion people who make less than $2 a day. If we let them all in, because Democrats want them all in, our country would fall overnight. I mean, it's ridiculous. They are allowing this because they believe it helps their political perspective to have a one-party country. So that was an excellent question. Yes, sir.
In the issue of sovereignty, do you support or oppose withdrawal from the United Nations?
You know, that's a great question. You know, so this is where I admire the president. So what was the United Nations intended to do? Can anyone say it in one sentence? One sentence. What was the purpose of the United Nations?
Establish global government.
Think 1948, don't think now.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole purpose of the United Nations is as a world, we're supposed to resolve issues. Right? And the whole purpose was after World War II, you know, the world was in shambles and all that. And the whole purpose was to try to bring the world together, right? But what really happens, everyone uses the United Nations to their own gain, including Hamas. And what did they find in the tunnels below Gaza? United Nations food, right? UNRWA, right? So that leads to the issue, do we need the United Nations given that we pour, like, I think it's what, 900 million? I think even more. But it's close to $1 billion. And what are we getting out of it as a country? And the answer is, there's a strong argument that they vote against us each and every time because they hate us. So what does right look like? And initially I thought, you know what, maybe it is time to take a step back. But what we're seeing is President Trump has put them on notice and said, you know what, unless you get your act together, we're not going to be a part of this. So right now, I think given where he's been at the last 2 years, I'd like to see where he goes with it. But if they don't get their act together, my question is, what have they done? Other than protect China from the lab, right? Because that COVID was clearly a lab, no doubt about it. So what have they done for us as a country for us to give them that much money? Excellent question. Anyone else? So I've talked a lot. Thank you very much. It's been an honor being here. I'll be here after if you want to throw tomatoes at me, all right? Oh, last two thoughts. Number one, remember in this country there's just one color. Red, white, and blue. Stay close to Christ. Thank you.
One thing I would be curious because of the, I can see your Belinda, okay, we go. Well, what is your, Dr. Casas, what is your, Dr. Casas, I'm sorry, just a quick summary of what kind of a strategy to win, you know, we could hear Belinda, but there's other sections that you mentioned.
So if you want to help, my campaign manager, Miss Lonnie Ndawadi is here. Get with her. A couple of strategies right now. We can do outreach to any church. We have flyers. We got to hit the sidewalks as people come out of church. Say vote for Dr. Casas. Get 3 people to vote for Dr. Casas. We got to get the numbers up, and we've got a follow-up strategy closer to October. Thank you, ma'am.
So you have walk pieces here, information, and then I think you have a donation envelope somewhere. I don't see them here yet.
No, ma'am.
There's
a QR code.
Oh, donate with QR code. All right, great. Thank you so very much. Let me quickly just acknowledge, you see yard signs here. We have Captain Tim Shaw. Tim, you want to just quickly just say what your, go from where you're, just introduce yourself and say what your, because we want to make sure with repetition, to hear your name, so make sure to vote on that name.
Tim Shaw, running for Orange County Supervisor.
Yay! And Laura are doing, they do the walking for the sections, and we have yard signs. And then he also has, I have flyers here, and then donation envelopes. Actually, I'm out of donation envelopes. We happen to have some in his pocket, right? And then, Bertha, I think, would you like to just quickly introduce yourself and what you're running for?
Bertha Manzanares, running for La Habra School Board.